So, hello troglodytes, and welcome back to another video. So, in today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at this Acer CB311-10H Chromebook, and what can it do under Linux. So, on to the video! Alrighty then, so let's talk about briefly how would you put Linux onto a Chromebook or Chromebox. So to get started, you go over here to this Chromebox.tech website, and you start. So before you even buy anything, you go over to the supported devices tab, and you can kind of search for whatever you're looking for. So in this case, I have my, I don't know, say, like you're browsing eBay or whatever, and you see, oh, here's a Acer Chromebook C740 that's on sale. You would search the model number here, and it'll tell you, oh, here's an Acer C740 Chromebook. You know, here's some information about it. What does it support? So in terms of the different firmware versions, what do they support? And here's how you disable write protection. So, and basically what all of this means is, so in order to put Linux on a Chromebook, you first have to, the easiest thing to do is first that if you're buying a used device, go search this list, see if the device you're buying is compatible, and you know, that kind of good stuff, just to do that right off the gate. What you can also do is go over to this Chrultrabook.com and check their listings, and this will tell you a little bit more information, so maybe this is the one you should actually look at, the C740. Either way, you would go over here, you'd see, okay, here's the Acer C740 Chromebook. Firmware legacy is end of life because this is an old device. UEFI firmware, which is the full overwrite, is still good. Here's the firmware write protection method. Okay, so there's more information about that over here, so that's why you'd want to go to that one. Then this will tell you, oh, Windows, that's good, assuming you have full UEFI firmware installed. Linux is good, and this should work with either, but on this device, currently, I'm not sure. And Mac OS. So basically, this will tell you a little bit more about like the weird problems with certain devices. Okay, so you've selected your model, you've gone through these pages, you're like, okay, this supports what I want to do. Then you would figure out, okay, well, how do I do the firmware write protection? Because how these devices work is, in order to actually flash the firmware, or at least flash the full UEFI full ROM firmware, you need to disable firmware write protection. And that's why finding a device that's fully supported and fully documented makes life very easy. So for example, on this Acer C740 model, what you would do is you would go and remove this screw that has been carefully highlighted here, that's right next to the battery. On other devices, so slightly newer models, you would have to unplug the battery. So you would open up, fully power off the device, open it up, remove the battery, and you'll be good, and so on and so forth. And from there, you would go boot the device into developer mode. You basically follow the instructions to boot your specific device into developer mode, open a special shell prompt, which is a different prompt than what you would find in normal Chrome OS. Oh, before you do the shell prompt, you have to connect it to the internet somehow, so either via Ethernet or Wi-Fi or whatever, just connect it to the internet. Then you would run the Mr. Chromebox script, so you just type in this big command, it'll do the script, and then do the option you want to do. and follow the instructions from there, and bada bing, bada boom. You will now have this thing ready to install a Linux or a Linux distribution of your choice, or if you want to put Windows on it, assuming you're able to do the UEFI full ROM, you're good. So, with that being said, let me talk about this model that I have. Purchased here. This is the Acer CB311-10H. And why I told you to go do this whole, you can't see that. Why I told you should check the device before you buy it is because this isn't listed on any of those, pages, and thus I was only able, on this device I only did the RW Legacy firmware. And with the RW Legacy firmware, basically what that's doing is it's modifying like a stock BIOS on here, and allowing that to boot alternate operating systems. And once you have all that set up, kind of what that looks like, as if my camera will hopefully figure itself out here. So, what that looks like is I boot up the device, and it will immediately go into this mode that says OS verification is off. So this is what the screen it will show when you enable developer mode. And if I were to press Control D, as you would normally do, if Chrome OS was still installed, it would boot up and you would be able to use it no problem. But on this model, I went and completely removed Chrome OS to install Fedora Linux. So, in order to boot Fedora Linux, you would press Control L. That would take you to this alternate firmware menu right here, as you can probably see through all the weird moire patterns on the screen. I'm sorry, I have to film the screen for this. And from there, if you were going to install a Linux distro, you would press the 2 button. That would take you straight to your installation media. So if you had like a Linux ISO flash to like a USB drive, it would do that. You would install your distro, everything would be hunky-dory. But in my case, since it's already installed, I'm going to press 0. That's going to take me to core boot, and it's going to boot my operating system. So let's get into that. Alrighty then, so this is going to be a little bit awkward. I have the Chromebook is now plumbed into Capture, which is good. And the weird thing you're going to notice about using a Chromebook as a regular kind of laptop-like computer is that it has a weird keyboard, you know? It has all these weird buttons up here. There's a search key instead of a caps lock. There's no super key, or, you know, if we compare this to a normal keyboard, there's no, super key or Windows key or whatever. There's no there's no caps lock key. It's just the search key. This function row up here is weird characters right here, right? Do you focus, camera? But let's talk about, so some of the things you're gonna have to do is map this search key to something. In certain distros, this is automatically mapped to the super key once you set it to the Chromebook keyboard layout. But under, or I guess some desktop environments rather, under XFCE, that's not bound, or it doesn't work properly by default, so I just bound it to the application finder. So, we've loaded up into the Micro Center website right here. It's gonna tell me, oh, do I want to access your location? Not right now. And I can do some stuff, so if I press these forward and back buttons, these will actually work. So I press the back button, you see that takes me back to here, to the new tab page, or press the forward button, That takes me back to Micro Center, which is pretty cool. Once it will load. This thing's not exactly the fastest thing in the world. I press this little reload button. That will indeed refresh the page, which is pretty cool. In my web browser. In other applications, these function as regular F keys, which is nice. So this button will maximize the window. So that's the maximize button. I'm not sure what this button was ever supposed to do, but in this case it also reloads the page. So that's pretty cool. If I'm in other applications, such as like the terminal, for instance, and I press the maximize button, oh, that does actually work over here, which is pretty cool. What if I wanted to, I'm not sure what the go forward and back would do here. Reload, nothing. This button just presses a tilde. Okay. So I guess this does work in other applications. I never really realized that. Particularly useful. So if I want to fire up like a video game, for example, I press that button. No, it does something different here. That just brings up this terminal. So I guess it depends on the app what these buttons are actually gonna do. Blah 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 blah. It has the AMD A4-9120C Radeon R4 5 Compute processor in it, with AMD Radeon R4 graphics integrate. I think Fast Fetch is having a bit of a stroke here. It has 4 gigabytes of RAM and 256 megabytes are allocated to the graphics chip. It has a 64 gig internal eMMC SSD, and there's all of that information. So now that I've kind of given you a brief overview of like the quirks of using an Chromebook, or at least maybe some of these slightly newer-ish models, let's kind of show you what you can do with this thing. So most of these Chromebooks are probably going to ship with 4 gigabytes of RAM. If you're lucky, you might get one that has 8, but this era seems to have 4, and they're soldered. So it's soldered RAM. I think on this one it has soldered storage, but I never fully removed the motherboard because I didn't see a reason to. So let me fire up a web browser and let's see what she can do, shall we? I haven't really tested like stuff like YouTube, but I guess we can go to that. So what did this default to? 1440p at 60. Let's start at 720p. Open the old stats for nerds here. Let's jump to a random segment. Let's jump to the... Here we go. This section. Play. Alright, so 720p at 60 is perfectly fine, as it would appear. Let's kind of skip forward to when we're actually driving around. So skipping through, it's a little bit slow. You can see the CPU is at full steam ahead there, so that's a little not great. Alright, so 720p 60 is probably going to be fine, unless you like do anything that'll bring up the UI, and then it's not so happy. Let's try 1080p at 60. I can guarantee you that 1440p and 4K are not happening at 60 FPS at least, so let's see. 1080p at 60. That's, I mean, good enough for most people, I would think. So it's thinking about it. Okay, it's a little chunky here. Oh boy. It doesn't say it's dropping any frames, but then the playback is not great, I guess. It seems fine. I don't know. 1080p at 60 FPS YouTube is probably fine. So So there we go. That's the YouTube experience. And in terms of opening like a lot of different tabs here, let's see. Let's open. I'll try the WebGL samples. Those are always fun. Let's just try something slightly different. Let's try the aquarium. Here we go. WebGL aquarium. This is something I can try. Alright, it's loading in. We're getting about 50 something frames with 500 fishies with this particular canvas thing. Change view. Ooh. So it's a fun view. Let's do this one. So let's try more fishies. 1,000 fishies. Okay. 10,000. Yeah, that's not as good. 30,000. It's not happy with 30,000 fishies. That's a little bit slow. But if we do 100 fishes, no problem. 1,000 fishes is about fine. So that's, I mean, you know, for heavier kind of 3D web games and stuff, should be fun. You know, if I want to look up something for a video game or whatever, I can... Where the heck is Arhu, huh? I don't know. Where the heck is Arhu? So I'm trying to do the quest to do the thing, and he isn't anywhere. So if I wanted to, like, you know, browse, like if I was downstairs using my console, I could just whip this thing out and look stuff up. No problem. Let's try to open another tab here. Let's go to... You know, maybe because, so this device is fanless. So say I wanted to like go over here and do, you know, the New York Times page and do cooking recipes. I could totally pull it up for that. And that would be just fine. So basic stuff like this. If I wanted to like check in on how Bazite's doing, I can do that. And that's gonna load eventually here. How are you doing, Bazite? I'm gonna download it. I don't. That animation's not very fast. But that's okay. How's this performing? Well, this is, you know, cromulent enough for what this thing is. The bookmarks bar seems to not appear when I'm in full screen, but I can just press that button and then we're back. So there's that. I can look up an idea. I don't know why Cisco is in there. I can, you know, look, web browsing is fine. I can open quite a few tabs here, as you can see, and memory is still not a problem, so I can just keep going if I want. So let's open up a video game. This is Cube 2 Sauerbraten. If I go and set this back down to 720p, hopefully that'll actually work. Yes, it will. And now this is what, if you were to use the internal laptop screen, this is kind of how you would, this is the resolution you would target. And it's, pretty good. At native 1366 by 768, this runs pretty well. These high settings with a couple bots. And yeah, I'm not doing a very good job of demoing it, but we're getting a solid 90-100 frames in this game here on a fairly heavy map because this has all the grass right here, so that makes it a little bit heavier. Maybe I should actually try to shoot something here. Okay, I'm terrible at these kind of games, but that's okay. And yeah, it's running pretty good. Oh, can I do a tracking shot? Of course not, but I can at least shoot things that are standing still directly in front of me, so that's pretty good. Bounce pad. So yeah, if I were to set the graphics down to something a bit more reasonable, so let me just turn everything off. Turn all the fancy stuff off again, low detail shaders. And now we're getting like Mongo frames. So if I were to set this to a more reasonable configuration, doesn't even look that much worse, to be honest. Looks roughly the same. And now we're getting like 200 frames. So if I were to bring this back up to 1080p, it'll figure that out. It will. It looks a little sharper. And we're still getting about the same frames we were before at 720p Ultra, so there we go. In terms of basic games like this, it runs pretty good. Well, it's getting a solid 20 frames per second. 24, there we go. 25, gonna go down, please. Thank you. 18. So it's not great, but it is running. Okay, maybe I was smoking something before, but it's, you know, it's Minecraft running at a reasonable frame rate, I would assume. On, you know, a potato processor. The CPU is pegged, so there's that, but it is running. Let me, maybe if I set this back to like fast. Set those down. Okay, now it's running better. So now it's running at a more cromulent frame rate here. I just had the settings set weird. So if you turn the settings down a bit, now it's, you know, very happy. What if I uncap the frame rate here? Set the frame rate to unlimited. How will that perform? Oh, look at that, in the 40s. Okay, 50s. So it's, you know, pretty good if you're okay with these low settings like this, which I think is fine. I mean, it's Minecraft, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Do we dare to try? So, you know, I mean, it's Minecraft. So let me say, you know, it's hard to see with all the stuff in the way, but let me try putting it back into full screen mode. Okay. And we're still getting a decent performance. Something was hitting me. Maybe a creeper blew up back there or something. So Minecraft will run decently well if you're okay with very low render distance and low settings. I thought it was running better before, but maybe I was wrong. So, here we go. It's not running perfect. Well, it is running at a nice, smooth 60 frames, which is what I would hope from a game this simple. I'm assuming once things start to get a little bit crazier, it might drop some frames, but it's, you know, it's doing it. Let's do that, why not? What I'm hoping for. So now it's starting to slow down a little bit, as we can see. So I wasn't totally wrong. We have one of these, yeah. Oh, no, that just froze them for a moment. That was nice. So sometimes the little pillars here will give you a vacuum power-up that'll just slurp all the little gems up from all over the map, and those are super great to just power level, because sometimes it can be hard to access these little gems that you've spawned. Oh, here's a chest. Okay, open the chest. Okay, these take forever. An upgrade for the Bible. Let's go. Done. Okay. Oh, no. Candelabra. Okay. Spinach, I know that was a combo for something. I don't remember what, but at this stage of the game, we're not really concerned about that yet. So now it's starting to run a little bit slower. We're starting to drop a couple of frames, but you know, probably not the end of the world. So now what? Blink. Your progress has been saved. So I can move around with Wasad. Okay. Shift to run. The toggle run. Oh, it's run by default, and then that slows me down. I can inspect the package. Okay, I've received 15 parsnip seeds. Here's a little something to get you started. Okay. Here's my TV. Oh, I see. I can just kind of click and move that around. Let's go outside. Can I start doing anything here? What if I wanted to like start clearing this out? Oh, that's my inventory. Oh, I see. So I do have some tools. I have an axe, a hoe, a watering can, a pickaxe, a scythe, and some seeds. What if I... How do I use my... I see. One. Okay. Ah, there we go. Does this have durability on it? Doesn't look like it. So I can go and kind of start clearing this out. Looks like 4. Maybe for the rocks. Okay. Okay. Can I change the volume to this? Options. Auto run. Show portrait. Show merchant portraits. Always show tool hit location. What does that do? Gamepad mode. Auto detect. Item stowing. Slingshot fire mode. Music volume. Okay, I can turn that down. It's better. Graphics. Oh. Okay, so it's a little bit awkward, but whatever. Windowed borderless, VSync, UI scale, zoom level, zoom buttons. Okay. Use hardware cursor. Ah! No, I like your cursor better. Okay. Cool. I can zoom out. Whoa, what if I zoom all the way out? It's... Okay, so if I zoom all the way out, then it's not quite running perfectly, so... I guess it's kind of right on the edge before. But if I zoom back in a little bit, then it's fine. Oh, I see, I can go through my inventory that way. Okay, so if I zoom all the way out, then it's not perfect at this resolution, but, you know, still pretty good. So I don't think this gets super crazy. Maybe it does, I don't know. Okay. Well, there we go. Let's Stardew Valley. It seems to run alright. I mean, this is just the intro, so again, it might get crazier later, but right now, if I can I clear this grass out? I can. Maybe if I scythe those, maybe that's more efficient. No, okay. Yay! We'll just zoom in one tick, then it's okay. One more tick. So it's not running absolutely perfect, but it's, you know, it's pretty good for a $50 Chromebook. You know. So yeah, overall, these Chromebooks are pretty great. If you can find something similar to this for, I don't know, in the $30 to $70 category, I'd say they're great little devices. You know, just it's not as complicated to install Linux as you might think. Just follow the instructions and you'll be golden. So there's that. It's perfectly cromulent for doing, you know, light web browsing, you know, light email, that kind of stuff, as we showed in the video. It could even do some light gaming if you want with the AMD integrated graphics in this model. The battery life is superb because these SoCs only pull about 6 watts, so That's pretty good. The screen on it's not very good, but I mean, it's a $50 Chromebook, so what are you going to expect? The build quality is excellent, the keyboard's pretty good, the trackpad is actually surprisingly nice for what this thing is. It's surprisingly snappy. It's not exactly fast as you saw, but it gets the job done. And yeah, I've just been using this a lot as just a basic little web browsing machine, and I quite like it. So, yeah. If you can find one for a good price, you might as well pick one up if you just want a basic, durable, fanless, rugged little laptop you can just kind of huck around and, you know, do whatever with. So, that's about it. Bye!